Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Jaymorz Collectibles. Today I have a new and exciting mail day video, something that I purchased off of eBay, nothing too crazy, and amidst all the reserve list buyout and the insane market uptick, just wanted to sort of talk about what I've been collecting and looking at. So, without further ado, what came in? Let's open up this sucker and see what Jaymorz is investing in. Now I know everyone's scrambling for reserve list cards, no attention's being brought to the standard format, but I still, just like Rudy, would want to at least have some sort of position in standard sets. Because I believe there will be a time where the price of Magic is sort of where we are right now, just with modern and standard cards. Gosh, there's a lot of tape in here. Like my low budget knife over here. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, just trying to be careful because you don't really know how these things are packaged. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that a lot of YouTubers out there are mentioning recent market price swings and upticks, and I think that's just all fine and dandy. But there's a lot of noise when they come and talk about that. It sort of puts things out of perspective and makes you think about the day-to-day trades. That's not what this investing life is all about. You have to be in it for the long term. Now the reason for that is because you just don't know where the market is heading, and you want to establish a position, a sizable position, to make some sort of difference, right? And you just don't want to be caught without your pants up. That's all I'm saying. And you don't want to sell too early, because then you may miss out on future opportunities. You know, there's no going back with the legacy and vintage era of Magic. There's just nothing comparable to it. But on that same token, don't just disqualify standard. You need to have some sort of balanced portfolio. And I'll talk about that in my future videos. And I know sometimes it could be a little daunting when one sees a price swing versus the other, or a particular card. You sort of want to contain the fundamentals or the KPIs that I mention in my videos, because that steers you in the right direction without emotion or market noise to sort of cloud your thinking. Well, anyways, got the packaging out of the way. More plastic bags. I tell you, these people... What is this? Drive up? Okay, pretty cool. A lot of people just love to make sure your package arrives nice and safely, which is great. I appreciate that. Anyone who goes the extra mile in packaging, because I've received some pretty bad packaging in my life. I mean, he even put a box, oh my god, a case for the cards. Look at that. And then 2 packing peanuts. This will be my dinner. As you all know, I eat packing peanuts and bubble wrap, because that's what I get majority of the time. So, as you could see, first card, Army of Allah. Okay, let me just try to get a better focus here. Maybe zoom in a little. Okay, that's better. So let's take all of these cards out. I'm not going to go over each one of them in particular detail. It's stuck. Okay, speaking of good buyers and sellers and packaging, I'm joking. Make sure your card doesn't get stuck. He gave me some penny sleeves. I'm not really sure why. I guess to protect the packing peanut from the card. But and then there's one that's sleeved, so I'm gonna check that out. Well, what do I have here? 2 copies. As you can see, one is light, one is dark. Same thing with the Beautiful Maiden. One is dark, one is light. Okay. Can anyone guess where this is going? Again, one is dark, one is light. Okay. I am going back, all the way back to one of my favorite Four Horsemen sets. I swear I am not copying Rudy. It's just in my blood. I got Egyptian blood, and this is in my just bloodstream, I guess, to appreciate the Arabian Nights, the 1001 Arabian Nights, right? So I actually have a few sets, complete sets of Arabian Nights, but I have more of the high-end cards that are raw and not graded that I wanted to put in complete sets, because eventually the market's going to realize that everything within the set is investable, because you can't just reprint it except Obulet, right? So while the market is cheap on these things and there's actually demand for these particular cards as a whole, it may be a good time to do so now before you miss the boat, you know? And that's the mindset that you should kind of have. Look, speaking of Obulet, right? Am I right? So what I bought, basically, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll go through this in detail, is basically a complete set of commons, both with light and dark variants. So the heavy hitters, if you want to be exclusive here, right? This one's an interesting one, ladies and gentlemen. So you have the infamous Stone Throwing Devils, right? Why do I have two copies here? Did he just feel happy for me? No. So this is an interesting one. Let me just get that on focus right there. This is an interesting one because the mana symbol, you can't really distinguish it from one versus the other. However, when you go to the creature type, I'm not sure if you can pick that up on camera. This one is the light and this being the dark. You can see it's more bold and white versus this being just normal font and slightly darker. Same thing over here. Maybe this picks it up a little better. This being the darker power toughness, and then this being the lighter one. As you can see, it's sort of bolder. But yeah, that's the thing. Stone Throwing Devils being a light dark variant is a thing. So just make sure you get educated about the vintage legacy cards and what's available out there and their history before you dabble into a large position, so you know exactly what you're buying into. Obvious choice, War Elephant, you gotta have it. Okay, this is an interesting one. I have probably, I don't know who's collecting these out there, but I probably have over 100 copies of the light Wayuli Wolf cards. Back in 2010, I read a post on MTG Salvation stating that the market is dried up of these light variants. Everyone was scrambling for them for their graded collections. And so every opportunity I could have to buy a light Wayuli Wolf, I did for pennies on the dollar. And also any graded copies, because they're hard to grade in 9 or higher. So that's a market opportunity I saw well over 10 years ago. So I do have a substantial position in Wayuli Wolves. Again, common card, Arabian Nights. Won't ever see a reprint, at least to my knowledge, right? It's the anagram for Lily Wu, right? So it's kind of iconic to the set and special to Arabian Nights. I think it was reprinted for Chronicles or 4th edition, I don't remember. But again, even if they reprint this to Oblivion, even if they reprint Obulet, there's nothing like the original with the color variant. So again, something to keep in mind. Again, do your homework, do your double Ds, and make sure you know what you're buying into. You got your deserts. Okay, so this was included in the set, and I guess that's why it's in a penny sleeve. Beautiful condition. Arabian Mountain. This is actually more expensive than probably any cards that you see on the video. This is one of the lands printed in the set. The only basic land printed in the set. There's no other variant in the set. However, the prices have been going up on these cards. So I'm sort of building up my position just on these mountains, just in case they go to over $300 per card. So, important to have some sort of position on this, just in case the market sort of buys it out, because it's one of, Arabian Night Mountain. and there's nothing else like it. So it's easy to corner the market on something like this. Okay, of course you have your deserts with the variants. One has the Mirage or Print Dot or whatever you want to call it, and this one does not. So I have that for a complete set. You have your Camel, all right, your Witches, your Dandans, Desert Nomads. Just like Rudy said, a lot of people have been collecting these, particularly for the artwork, because it reminds them of the Star Wars Nomads in the first episode, was it? I don't remember. Undervalued card. Make sure you have a graded copy. I'm telling you right now, undervalued card. You have the Ogre, the Jackal, Curd Ape, Harambe, right? Metamorphosis, Sandstorm, which is hard to grade in a BGS 9 or higher. So if you find a cheap graded copy, especially with the BGS prices going up, this past weekend, I believe they declared over 400% increase in card prices. So again, any of these cards graded is an opportunity. Don't miss out on that. And last but not least, you have Unstable Mutation. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I do have one other thing to share. Let me just clean up this mess and I'll show you what else I got. Okay, all cleaned up and I'm back. So, with the recent reserve list buyout, I found an opportunity just before the peak, and it is a collection that I bought from someone all the way in Germany, yes. And it finally arrived a few weeks back, and I figured I might as well include it in the video and talk a little bit about it. So, what cards did I buy? Well, I don't normally recommend buying into low-end reserve lists, especially with the recent market activity. You just don't know what's behind the driving force. Is it market manipulation? Is it evil investors? Is it a bunch of whales laughing at the MTG community? Is it just new people from Wall Street Bets flocking the scene because of all the hype? You just don't know, and you don't want to get burned where it goes from $20 a card to pennies on a dollar in a drop of a hat. Well, seeing the opportunity and applying the 5 KPIs that I mentioned in my single card video, it's part of the reserve list. Its power level is interesting, and it caters to particular formats in the game. Not only that, you do have some sort of nostalgia because during the time that it was released, it actually saw play in interesting decks. So, what did I buy exactly? Without further ado, I got myself 25 Vortexes at $3 each. Now right now these cards are steady climbing wellwards of well towards 20 a card, so you could say the investment sort of paid off. Of course, with a low entry to market at $3 a card, $75 plus shipping, handling, PayPal fees, etc., and the risk of buying overseas, because I did purchase this from a gentleman over in Germany. Yes, it was something that I strategically positioned myself, considering the pros and cons. Because say this goes down to $1 a card, so I have 25 of these, so 75 to $25, I can take that loss, right? It's how much you're willing to sort of lose when you gauge your risk tolerance, right? But to the upside. So right now I have 25, they're 20 each, 75 to 500. You see what I mean? You want to sort of redevelop the way you think, especially when you're investing into unregistered assets, because there's no SEC that sort of regulates and monitors the market so that you don't hurt yourself, right? It's sort of you and the buyer and the assets that you buy, in this case, the Magic cards. So you just want to do your double Ds before committing and knowing if your opportunity to enter the market is well worth it. In this case, as you can see, clearly this is something that helps in your overall portfolio, because you never know if these cards spike. especially considering the market volatility nowadays. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you can appreciate the cards with me throughout this video. I know a lot of this may seem overwhelming, especially if you feel like you missed a boat, but as you can see, there's opportunity to be had if you just spend the time looking for it. You don't need to go to Wall Street Bets or MTG Finance Reddit pages to know what cards are good and not. You just want to browse through the listings that are out there, apply your judgment, maybe even speak to someone like me or Rudy or even Daniel Chang from Vintage MTG, because they've been around the block. They know what's primed for opportunity. And once you sort of train your mind to think that way, this place, it's a gold mine to be discovered. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you were able to take away some key points that I mentioned throughout this video. I hope this video gave you some insight and shed some light on some other opportunities you may look into when investing in the single card market, especially with everything that's gone up in price. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me directly or leave a comment down below. Make sure you like that button so you can see more videos like that. And I'll see you in the next Jaymorz Collectibles.